The snow fell heavy that winter evening when I first saw her standing at the edge of the frozen forest. Her name was Kira, and she was unlike anyone I had ever known. She had the ears and tail of a fox, bright orange fur that matched her long flowing hair, and eyes that held centuries of sorrow. I was Marcus, a 42-year-old colonial surveyor sent to map the outer territories of New Europa, a terraformed moon where humanity had fled after Earth became uninhabitable. I had seen many strange things in my years exploring these wild lands, but nothing prepared me for her. She stood perfectly still as the snowflakes gathered on her long coat. Her fox ears twitched at every sound, alert and cautious. I could see she was shivering, not from cold but from fear. I had heard stories from the indigenous Kitsune people who had evolved here over generations, adapting to this harsh moon through genetic modification and natural selection. They were a proud people who kept to themselves in the deep woods, rarely making contact with human settlements. I approached slowly, my breath forming clouds in the frigid air. She turned to face me, and I saw the desperation in her eyes. She did not run, which told me she had nowhere left to go. I raised my hand in peace and spoke softly, telling her my name and that I meant no harm. Her voice, when she finally spoke, was like wind through winter branches, soft yet carrying an ancient weight. She told me her name was Kira, and she had been banished from her clan. The Kitsune had strict laws, she explained, and she had broken the most sacred one. She had fallen in love with a human trader who had passed through their territory 5 years ago. When her people discovered this forbidden attachment, they cast her out with nothing but the clothes on her back. In Kitsune culture, loving an outsider was considered a betrayal of their bloodline, a contamination of their pure heritage that had survived for 300 years on this frozen moon. I listened to her story as the wind howled around us. I understood loneliness. I had lost my wife Sarah to the radiation sickness that still plagued some of the older settlements. My daughter Emma had grown up and moved to the central cities, pursuing her own life among the towers and transit systems. I had taken the surveying job to escape the empty house and the memories that haunted every corner. Out here in the wilderness, I thought I could find some kind of peace. Instead, I found Kira. I offered her shelter in my camp, a small heated geodesic dome I had set up 3 kilometers from where we stood. She hesitated, her foxtail curling around her legs protectively. Trust did not come easy to her, and I could not blame her. But the temperature was dropping fast, and even with her thick fur, she would not survive the night exposed to the elements. She finally nodded and followed me through the darkening forest. Inside the dome, I gave her hot tea and a thermal blanket. She sat near the portable heater, her ears drooping with exhaustion. As she warmed up, she told me more about her life. The Kitsune were not just genetically modified humans, as I had thought. They were something more, something that had emerged from the combination of human DNA, fox genes, and the strange properties of this moon itself. They lived for 200 years or more and possessed abilities that seemed almost magical. Enhanced senses, incredible agility, and a deep connection to the natural world around them. Kira was 93 years old, though she looked no older than 25 by human standards. She had spent her entire life in the forest communities, learning the old ways, hunting, gathering, and living in harmony with the harsh environment. But her heart had yearned for something more, and when she met the human trader named David, she felt for the first time that she was not alone in her longing. They had shared only 3 months together before he had to return to cities, promising to come back for her. He never did. When her clan discovered her secret meetings with David, they held a trial under the ancient oak that stood at the center of their village. The elders declared her corrupted, a danger to their way of life. They stripped her of her clan markings, burned her family totem, and drove her into the wilderness with nothing. That had been 2 weeks ago, and she had been wandering ever since, trying to survive on roots and small game, always moving to stay ahead of the cold. I felt anger rise in my chest at the cruelty of it. What kind of people would abandon one of their own for simply loving someone? But I also understood that fear drove many decisions. The Kitsune had maintained their identity for centuries by being isolated and protective. They saw the human settlements as threats, places where their children might be lured away, where their culture would dissolve into the larger population. Kira was a symbol of that fear made real. Over the following days, Kira stayed in my camp while I continued my surveying work. She helped me navigate the forest, using her enhanced senses to detect dangerous animals and unstable ground that my instruments might miss. We fell into an easy rhythm, working together during the day and sharing meals by the heater at night. She taught me about the forest, showing me which plants were edible and which were deadly, how to read the weather by watching the birds, and how to move silently through the snow. I taught her about the wider world beyond the forest, about the cities built into the mountains, the spacecraft that still arrived from distant colonies, and the technology that kept our fragile civilization alive on this frozen moon. She listened with fascination, her ears perked forward, her tail swaying gently. She had never seen a holographic display before, and when I showed her images of Earth as it once was, green and blue and full of life, tears streamed down her face. We talked about loss and loneliness, about the choices that define us and the regrets we carry. I told her about Sarah, about the 20 years we had together, and how I still sometimes reach for her in the night, forgetting she was gone. Kira told me about her mother, who had died defending their village from a pack of ice wolves when Kira was young, and how she had never felt she truly belonged even before her banishment. As weeks turned into a month, something shifted between us. It was not sudden or dramatic, but gradual like the lengthening of days as winter slowly released its grip. I found myself watching her when she did not notice, admiring the grace of her movements, the way her ears tilted when she was thinking, the warmth of her rare smiles. She began sitting closer to me in the evenings, and sometimes her tail would brush against my leg, a gesture I learned meant trust and affection in her culture. One night, as an aurora painted the sky in ribbons of green and purple, she asked me why I had helped her. I could have left her in the forest that first night. I could have reported her presence to the authorities who tried to maintain peace between humans and Kitsune. Instead, I had taken her in, shared my supplies, and treated her as an equal. I thought about her question for a long time before answering. I told her that I had been alone too long, that I had forgotten what it meant to care about someone beyond myself. When I saw her standing in the snow that evening, I saw not a foxwoman or an exile, but a person in need, someone who deserved compassion. And in the time since,